What is going on, Savages? Hope everyone's doing well. Thanks for tuning in. I've got a rig that is, the last couple of days, it's actually been acting up. It has it's an 8 GPU RX 580 Aorus, gigabyte Aorus GPU rig. And it's got 4 GPUs that never fire up. They never are seen by the system, however you want to say it. So it's been going on a couple of days now. I think I mentioned it on my last stream that it was acting up. I don't know. And anyway, it looks like this. This is it's on Simple Mining, and this is one of the shared rigs, the co-owned rigs. I don't own this rig outright, so it's kind of important to keep it up and running, right? So yeah, it has 4 of 8 GPUs you can see right there that are actually up and running. I've done all the normal troubleshooting stuff as far as restart. I think my machine's just about to shut down. Hang on a second, guys. I don't know what it's doing. It didn't like all that. Anyway, so I'll keep going. I don't know if this thing is going to shut down or not, though. We'll see. But basically, yeah, 4 of 8, and you can tell by the hash rate and stuff like that it's not good. It should be getting, I think this rig was sitting around 13.4 or 13.6K mining Conceal CCX. Yeah, so we have to figure out what's going on. I've done all the normal troubleshooting stuff, restarting, hard power down, all that stuff, all the normal stuff. I just haven't done much with the actual hardware. I even reflashed Simple Mining to this rig, like a fresh install, just as, because sometimes as time goes on, the they update the OS pretty frequently as far as Simple Mining goes. So I just didn't want to get caught in a situation where the hardware that I'm using, and the drivers that they had, it just didn't jive or whatever. So I went ahead and re-imaged that as well. Same exact symptom. Pretty much every time I start this rig from powered off, it never registers more than 4 GPUs. So I figured, hey, what the heck? I'll fire up the live stream and we can maybe take a look at this thing live. So I think it might be kind of interesting. I do have to go and get the rig. The rig is actually out in the garage, and that's why the temperatures are a little bit warmer than usual. Because of where I'm at, it is super hot. Let's see, what else do I want to show you? I've got, you can see right here, it'll say this is the console of the rig. It's currently up and running, obviously, but only 4 of the GPUs are visible. You got 0 through 3. You can kind of see that right here because you'll see only GPU 0, GPU 1, GPU 2, and GPU 3. That's all you'll see in here. You can kind of see that over here as well. So that is pretty much the situation. Clearly it leads me to think that there's something hardware going on, not software. So yeah, I don't know. I thought it'd be cool. So let's see what is going on. There's a couple people in here. Thanks for showing up. Again, I'm going to have to go and grab the rig. It's actually in the garage, so I'm going to power it down. I think, trying to think if there's something else I want to show you before I power it down. Power-wise, yeah, I mean, that's pretty normal. Let's see here. Yeah, so let's just go ahead and select it, select actions, and I'm going to power off. Actually, there was one thing I think I wanted to show you. Maybe not. This is, basically the same info, but I was just going to show you that it is, it's supposed to be 8 GPUs. It's only 4 showing up in here. Oh, that's what it was. Some people would say, like, well, why don't you just use the features of finding your GPU, this new feature that's Simple Mining added. But if the GPUs aren't even being seen by the system, then there's no way to use those types of tools to figure out, you know, which ones aren't mining, right? This is literally, hey, on boot, these 4 GPUs are not seen. That's the symptom. And simple mining doesn't see them. The system doesn't see them. So that's kind of where we're at with that. So let's go ahead and power it down. And I'm going to bring it in here. And I will be back in a moment. All right, I am back. That didn't take that long, I don't think. I think we're good. I just brought this in from the garage. Hey, what's up, Serial Thrill? Yeah, I haven't even plugged it up or anything yet. Go ahead and do that. Okay. I'll turn this other rig off just in case too. I don't want to trip a breaker or anything. This off. Power cable came out a little bit there, messing stuff up. And this is actually the rig. If you guys have heard me talk about this rig a little bit, this is the one that has the Gigabyte Aorus GPUs. And what happens, now this time it just fired right up with no problem. But what happens is sometimes they, if a GPU fires up and it has the fan stop light right here lit, then that GPU will not be visible by the system. But that's kind of an unrelated thing. I don't believe that's related to the problem that I have today with the 4 GPUs. So let's see. What I wanted to do here is fire it back up and see if, well, actually turn it on in here and see if the symptom is exactly the same. You know, make sure that we're not chasing our tails here. These are Gigabyte Aorus RX 580s. I'm not sure I'm saying that right. Aorus, something like that. AORUS. Sorry. I disconnected my camera. That's not good. Let's try and lean it over there for a closer look. It's probably not going to come back. I do not know how to get this camera to show back up without shutting down. Let me see if I can do that. I'm going to shut down the OBS and fire it back up and just see see if it comes back. Give me just a second. If I lose you, I'll just fire up the stream again. It'll be right back. So give me a second. Okay, Serial Thrilla, because these fans are, I mean, I can plug them up, but they're basically useless because all they really do, I mean, they might help a little bit, but they consume so much power, so much wattage, that they're just not it's not smart to leave them on, in my opinion. They just don't do enough. They're not high RPM or anything, so they consume, and plus they're LEDs and stuff. It's just, it's just, I don't know. In my opinion, I think it's kind of silly to leave them on because it doesn't change the temperature any on the GPUs, and it's just kind of a waste. So that's why they're off. They look cool, but but they do consume electricity that, whenever you're a miner, it's kind of important to lower your electric use as much as possible. So, and this is Simple Mining OS is what I'm using. Yeah, these aren't. I mean, I could control them maybe with the BIOS of the motherboard. They're just basically on or off. I do have a controller for them. Or no, actually no. This rig doesn't have a controller, but yeah, it's not really it's not a priority of mine in any way at all. All right, so I don't think anything is happening just yet. It does take a little while for this because it's using XMR Stack as the miner, so it does take a little while to fire up. But I have noticed that sometimes I do have to power this rig down and power it back up at least once, for it to get all the way back up and running. So let's check Simple Mining here. It seems like it's back up and running actually. Yeah, it is. But as you can see, only 4 GPUs are listed there, and there's 8 in the system, 8 powered up. You can see, let's see here. Try not to disconnect there. You can see they're all powered up. They're all connected. And another really key thing here is that all this was working, right? And just one day it just stopped. So keep that in mind as well as we go through the troubleshooting process. All right, so let me get over here back to Simple Mining, and I'm going to shut it down again. And where do you think we should start? Because I think that we should start disconnecting all of the GPUs except for one, and just allowing one to be connected and fire it back up and see if that one works, and then add another one. So if that one works, shut it down, power it up again with the second one added. And all I'm going to do initially, I don't know if it's a great way to do it or not, but I think what I'll do first is just disconnect the riser, the part that goes in the motherboard here. So probably what I'll do is just disconnect the 7 and leave 1 in there at a time. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I don't know, what do y'all think? Let me know in the chat there. Power down. It already was powered down. I'm just going to pull these out, and I'm actually going to just leave them sitting on top of the PCIe slots. I know there can be some EMI and things like that, interference and whatnot, but they're already here, so I'm just going to disconnect them enough that they're not connected and leave them sitting right on top. I'll slide them back just a little bit so that they don't fall into the slot by accident or anything. Alright, so now I have just one, and it's actually this GPU over here, and that's it. Now they all still have power, and we got to remember this, because if it's a power issue, right, then we don't want to get wrapped around the axle troubleshooting something. So we have to keep this in mind. If we start looking at, if we start seeing it and it looks like it might be power related, we got to remember that the other GPUs are still connected. So we might want to disconnect the actual power to the other GPUs. All right, so as you can see, remember the symptom I was telling you earlier with the fan stop light being on? I don't know if you guys can see that or not. The C right here on GPU 2 and 3, and it looks like 4, 5, 6 right here. That little light, that little fan stop light is on those. So if they were actually connected to the motherboard, then those GPUs would not be visible by the OS or the system board or anything like that. So we just have to, that's, again though, that's just a separate issue that I've always had with this rig. So I'm not going to worry too much about that at this point. I mean, I am keeping that in the back of my mind, but I just want to, I don't think it's related. I think it's a different issue. Put it that way. Yeah, I do have electrical tape in between the PCIe riser, the little adapter cards, but I have done pretty extensive research on that, and this particular motherboard, I know it was something, years ago, or a couple years ago, or last year it was brought up, or the year before, whenever these boards first came out. I have yet to see, I think that what was happening back then was, I believe that the actual adapter probably had some really bad solder joints on it, and they thought the people that were saying that was the problem. I don't know, but I can tell you this: I've looked at it very, very, very closely, and there's really you have to really force it to get them to even come anywhere close to each other whenever they're even beside each other in those PCIe slots. I mean, you have to really force it. And what people were thinking was an electrical connection was just the mount for the, actually I can show you right here. I got one handy here. I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not. What I found was that people were thinking that this right here, these two that are sticking out, I don't know, it's not going to focus on that, but you probably can see it a little bit. Let me see here. Switch cameras. A little bit more light over here. So people were thinking that this right here, these were actual electrical connections, and they're not. This is the mount for the USB port, right? So these little tabs on the side just go through this little board, the printed PCB here, or the circuit board, and that's what those tabs that are sticking out are, right? The electrical connections are those little guys right there in the middle, and they're nowhere near, they're not sticking out at all. So if you can make this one touch another one in the same, in the slot next to it, I don't know, man. You're doing something wrong if you can make that happen. But this touching this USB port, touching the bracket of the, even if it's touching the little part that's coming out here, sticking out, I don't think it's going to do anything. I mean, maybe on the grounding side, I don't know, man. It would still be really hard to get that to touch the one next to it. I don't know. I looked at it really close because I use these boards all the time. It's my favorite motherboard, so I did a lot of looking into that to see if that claim was true, and I don't know. I could not replicate a problem with that. I'm not saying that people didn't have that actual problem. Maybe the types of adapters that they had were really poorly made, but I don't know. All right, so what we've got now is we've got 1 of 8, which that makes right. That makes sense. We've got 1 GPU in there, and we are mining on it, it looks like. So let's check out the console just to see. It says new block detected and share accepted. So it's working with that 1 GPU, right? So it's working with 1 GPU. Let's power it down and add in the second one. All right, power it up. Okay, so in this case, you can see that GPU 1 has that fan stop light on it. See it? So I'm going to power it back down because I know for a fact, through much experience, that this GPU is not going to work. It's not going to be seen by Simple Mining or anything like that. So I'm going to power it down, and I can tell it's going to do it whenever I hear the fans spin up so much like that. They're so loud. I don't know what causes it. It's one of those things where, if I had a day to troubleshoot it, I would. But so now those 2 GPUs, the ones that we're worried about, that's 1 and 2 right there. They are. The fan stop light is not on, so they're good. Yeah, Conceal's been killing it for sure. Hey, Bit9K, yeah, man, come on. All right, so we should see 2 here any moment. It does take a minute. Or, you know, if I click on the console and it's already up and running, and it's not just yet. But I was going to say that if it's up and running already, then we might have already, actually, yeah, we actually have. Because right here it shows only the 1. Okay. So I am thinking that we might have already found the problem, or at least, you know, got it down to a specific GPU or riser or whatever we've got here. So because we just booted it, we just attached the second one, but it doesn't see that second GPU. So now what we can do, let's shut it down again. Shut it down. I'm going to add the third one. And if we then get 2, right, in simple mining, then it's kind of focused on this GPU at that point, the number 2 GPU. So let's check that out. So we're just going to drop in the third one. So now it'll be these 3 right here that are going to be connected. And then with this rig, I have to make sure that the fan stop light is not lit on any one of those 3. And it's not, so we're good. Is Conceal at the top of what to mine as well? For what GPUs? So I think I looked at this earlier. Like this rig right here, on what to mine, if you see this label right here, that is the rig that we're actually looking at right there that we're troubleshooting. And it's 8, you can see it's 8 580s. So yeah, wow, it's at the top. Awesome. Towards the top, I guess. ETC is a little bit up there, but I wonder why it's like that. Okay, so so before power or after power. Okay, so think about this. So after power, the profit on Conceal is better than Ethereum Classic because the difference in the algorithms and the amount of power consumption, right? Because Conceal uses kryptonite Conceal, which is less power hungry than Ethash. So that's why this looks like it does. It's weird to see it like that, where you know the top one is actually less profit than the bottom one. But most people just do it, you know, with 0 cost of electric. That way they can not worry about, you know, things being, actually, yeah, it's still 451 before power. So, but yeah, this looks a lot better like that, right? Before power. But if you want to do it realistically, I mean, you got to throw your power in there too. and mine's actually more like 11 after taxes and all the other junk that they throw in there. But I just put 10 as the average. What GPU though? Because this one is RX 580s. You might have something else. You know, if you change to 570, it might be absolutely at the top. Nope. So you must have, maybe you have Vegas or something. So that's pretty cool. All right, so it's back up and running. Let's check out and see. All right, so check that out. We now have 2. So that tells me, that's really telling me that we're focused on that second GPU, the GPU number 2. So let's shut it down again. I'm gonna add one more. And well, actually no, we were missing 4. So let's go ahead and shut it down again and just keep adding one and see if, you know, if it breaks again, I guess, if it doesn't show us all the GPUs. You can do it with a console or the motherboard, it doesn't matter, but, or the button on the motherboard. All right, so I'm just gonna add in the 4th one. Okay, you got RX 580s times 6. All right, let me show you this real quick again. I've got GPU number 3 with that fan stop light on right there. So I'm going to power down, power back up. I want these 4 GPUs to not have that light on in order for our test to be successful as far as what we should be seeing. Number 3 had it on that time. Sometimes it takes 5 or 6 times for me rebooting this thing. Sucks. But once it's up and running, it'll stay running forever. Alright, so 4. So 1 through 4 is what we have connected now to the motherboard down there. And let's see what happens now. So you have 6 RX 580s. Yeah, so you might have, let me ask you this, what exchanges do you have listed in here? Because I would assume that if you take off, maybe if you take off hit BTC, because that's where it's getting, you know, that information from for Ethereum Classic. No, now it's getting it for Binance. No, Bitfinex. This isn't working. I can't make it go to the top. I mean, I guess these prices on these different exchanges would have to be pretty severe in order for it to, or the differences would be severe. I don't know, anyway. Yeah, I can't get Conceal all the way to the top, but it's up there. I'm happy. Oh, you don't have any? Okay. Let's try that. I don't think I've ever done that. Ah. That's pretty slick. All right, put them back in there. Probably has default. We're totally like off topic here, but why does it put those 480s back in there? I wonder. It like hits it with a default setting or something. Weird. All right. All of them are back now. Nonetheless, it's still towards the top, right? Oh, there it goes. Okay. But it's still got 480 selected for some reason. Okay. But if I take 480 off, it throws it to second. I'm still happy with second. I'm good. All right, let's go and check and see. All right, it says 2. What should we see right now? We should see 3, right? Because we have 3 connected. Let's see here. So it only sees 2. I still think, so we got to think about what's going on here, because we saw something wrong whenever we connected the second GPU. So I think it's smart to focus on that one, because it could actually be causing the problem with the other one. So you know what we could do? Let's do this. Let's go ahead and power down. And I'm going to disconnect. Okay, so right now we have 4 GPUs connected and only 2 are being seen, right? But we have the second GPU, the one that we feel like might have something wrong with it, or that its riser or something going on with it. Because whenever we connected this one, the first time, whenever we went from here to here, this one was not seen, remember? So what I'll do is I'll disconnect this one. We've got these 4 connected. I'll disconnect this one, and if we have 3 that show up, then I think that we've found our culprit, right? So I'm going to disconnect the second one, turn it back on, power up, make sure our little fan stop lights aren't lit on any of those 4 right there. And it is. It's actually on the second one, but you know what? I don't care, because the second one's disconnected down there, so I'm okay with that. Yeah, I use Tulip Tech Mining. I use Simple Mining, and I use HiveOS. This particular problem definitely doesn't have anything to do with Simple Mining. I've been using it for a couple years, or a year and a half, and I don't really have a problem with Simple Mining, but I do have them separate from my other rigs, because these 2 rigs are co-owned. I don't own them outright. This rig that you're looking at here has like 5 different owners. So in order to keep everything really separate, I left these 2 rigs on Simple Mining. Well, this rig and the other co-owned rig on Simple Mining, just to keep it separate. Plus, it gives me the added benefit of being able to do content on 2 different operating systems anytime I want, right? So I'm not like all in on HiveOS, I'm not all in on Simple Mining, I do both. So I think that adds a little bit of value, and that's why I have some of the rigs on Simple Mining and some of them on HiveOS, if that makes sense. So what I would like to see here is 3. But it looks like I only have 2. just to verify. I want to make sure I didn't get caught up here. So yeah, I've got 3 connected. All right. Only 2 show up. Okay. So let's power down. And I still think that it's that second one, but let's power off. I think what I'll do is I will go ahead and disconnect the power to this second one. Hello. It shouldn't matter. I'm going to plug up. Let's go ahead and plug up the rest of them. See if we can get a different symptom to show up. I had the wrong camera on, sorry about that. So all I did was I connected the rest of them, so I've got 7 connected and 1 not connected, right? And the 1 is the GPU number 2 that we feel like has the problem initially. So let's try, see if we can get 7 GPUs to show up at least. Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards it being the riser or the adapter, the little adapter card that goes in the PCIe slot. I don't know. I don't know yet. I hope it's not the GPU. That would really suck. But yeah, we'll see. I've got a spare on hand here just in case. So what I'm hoping to see this time, I'm hoping to see 7 GPUs. Oh, you know what? I didn't check the fan stop. Never mind. Let me power this back down. Because I had a fan stop light on. I actually had 2 of them on. Power up and not have any on. And again, it takes several times sometimes. I mean, I was standing out in the garage rebooting this machine a dozen times sometimes. So the only fan stop light that's on right now is the number 2, which is disconnected. So I'm just going to let it rock like that and see what happens. Oh, look at that. It did have 4. Huh. Maybe I got a little bit too maybe I was impatient there. It actually shows 4 on that last reboot, which that is pretty much the symptom, unless that's right now. I don't think that's right now. I think this is old info. No, it's not old info. Looks like that's it. So it only sees 4. It still only sees 4. All right. So the next thing to do would probably be to disconnect the power from GPU 2. And because this is the one that initially wasn't seen by the system, right? So let's try that. Get back on the right camera here. I'm just going to pull the power from the riser. and already disconnected the GPU power. All right. If you hear how the fans spin up, I know I'm going to have a bunch of fan stop lights on. Well, I only have one. Actually two. Whenever it's quiet like that, normally there's no fan stop lights on and it's good to go. And it is, so. I was pretty confident that it was that second GPU, but now I'm kind of second guessing myself here. Alright, so it's still only seeing 4. 0 through 3. Alright. I don't know. What do y'all think? We've got the power disconnected on it. It shows memory allocation failed down there. So maybe it's not that second GPU. I don't know. Alright, let's try some other things, I guess. Maybe I shouldn't have plugged them all up at the same time here. But what I'm noticing though, it doesn't seem to be doing anything. It's not loud, the fans aren't spinning up or anything. So maybe maybe like before, I am kind of getting impatient. Or maybe this time it's hung up and it's actually not. Let me, you know what I'll do? I'm going to grab a monitor. Let's get a monitor on this thing. I just gotta grab a monitor off of one of the other rigs here, and I have to go out to the garage and grab a cable or two. This will give us a little bit quicker and more precise insight into what's going on with the rig, because simple mining doesn't always update, and you're not 100% sure you're looking at real-time data, right? So sometimes it helps to have a monitor on the machine. So I will be right back. Yeah, I have a feeling it's actually stuck at the BIOS this time. Most likely because it's not doing anything, it's not mining or anything. Seems to be stuck. It actually is mining. Okay. It's super quiet. So I guess what we are seeing is actual real-time info in simple mining there. All right, so 4 of 8. Showing up. I can't believe how quiet this thing is. So I guess what we can do is maybe, I guess we'll start back at the beginning. Let's do that. Go ahead and disconnect all of them, except for the first one. It's funny, I accidentally shorted across the the power on pins there. So I surely didn't power that up. Not on purpose anyway. Yeah, see, it's going right into the BIOS. And I mean, that happens sometimes. Especially with this super cheap little USB drive I have back here. I need to actually get this thing up and running on like a cheap SSD, because running it from USB is sometimes problematic. Like you'll see stuff like this sometimes. See, now it boots. So it's not very consistent. So what we want to see at this point, actually, this one has the fan stop light on it. I can actually show you though. I'll leave it like this and you'll see. So all it's going to do, I think anyway, is right now it's saying there is no screen to be attached matching miner. It's that goofy worded error whenever you don't have a monitor attached, basically, is what it's saying. So it doesn't see a GPU other than the built-in GPU or the integrated GPU. So it's just going to keep saying this over and over and over, and that's because that fan stop light is on, and that GPU is not recognized by the system. So because that light's on, and this is the only one we have connected right now, so that's why. So that's as far as it's going to get. So I'm going to power down. Power back up. And just since this is the only GPU connected, I'm just going to make sure that the fan stop light isn't on that one. And it's not. So this time it should boot. And we should get one GPU up and running. And it says found OpenCL GPU Ellesmere, so it does only see one GPU. And if we go over to simple mining, we can verify that. And it does, it sees one GPU. And that's it. So that's as far as we need to go with that. We know that from there it'll work. So I'm going to power it down. I'm going to add in the one that we disconnected earlier. Keep forgetting to switch the camera back. I'll get it. The lighting's not great in here. Definitely need a good flashlight. Oh, come on. There we go. Alright, got that. Then we're going to connect number 2. I might have something really bad here because the symptoms kind of jumping around a little bit on us. So we want 1 and 2 to not have fan stop. Number 2 has fan stop, so I'm going to power it down. Alright, so these 2 are good. So we should have 2 seen by the system. I only see 1. So it only sees 1. You can see it right there. Alright, so that's not good. So it doesn't even see the second one that we put in there, which is why we were thinking that that was the bad one to begin with. So now let's press on and we'll disconnect that one again. And we'll put the third one back in there. And then it's got the fan stop light. So I'm going to power it off. Number 2 has a fan stop light. Shouldn't matter because the it's not connected to the motherboard, but let's just get it to where, I think what I'll do, yeah, let's just get it to where all of them are good. That way I'm not chasing my tail on that particular issue. And it can take quite a few times before it comes up clean, so bear with me. So right now there's 4 of them with the fan stop light on. Whenever it starts up like that, I know that there's going to be several of them with the, it's so loud, you know, the fans, like, it's like the symptom is basically like they immediately go to 100% fan, you know. I'm wondering if they're going to keep doing that because they're not connected to the motherboard. Usually by about the 4th or 5th one, I'm good. Yeah, it must have something to do with actually connected to the motherboard, because all these keep having the fan stop light. Man, this is crazy. Normally it doesn't take that long to get it fired up. And it keeps happening on the second GPU too. Alright, this is crazy. I'm going to disconnect GPU 1 as well. So I only have 3 connected. So let's see if that one by itself comes up. I guess that's a pretty good test. Yeah, I'm thinking actually now that I'm really looking at this, I might have like at least 2 bad risers, because that one was, it seemed like there was something wrong with it at first, that GPU 2, but now it seems like there's even more. So yeah, interesting. Let me see if I've got 8 new risers in the package. Alright, I have 7 new risers. Alright, so did that one come up? It looks like it. Yeah, I think that's what I'm getting. I'm getting like a temporary failure on one of them or 2 of them or something like that. So this one is, yeah, it's got 1 working. That's what it looks like. Let them chill out a few days. Yeah, this is super interesting. Yeah, see, it's got 1. So GPU 3 all the way through seems to work just fine by itself. Yeah, those, like you said, those risers, they don't produce really quality stuff over there, oftentimes. And these probably aren't U-bit, they're probably Yo-bit or something like that. I don't remember the make, but I mean, most of them come from the same place anyway. They just throw a different label on it. But I don't know. I mean, these are, I don't know if I'll be able to see. I mean, these are kind of old. They're version 009S. Look like that. Yeah, so let's see here. The bad thing is that this particular rig, there's a bar, like the way I have it organized, because of the length of the GPUs. I had to put the bar for this Veta rig over here to support underneath of each GPU. So the GPU is actually sitting on the bar, and the riser is actually sitting on the bar. So this is going to take some time to do all that. I mean, I can take each GPU out, of course, but let me think about the best way to do this. I could eliminate all the risers probably pretty quickly. Yeah, let's do that. Let's just, I'm just going to disconnect all the risers and just start with a new set, at least 7 of them. Push that out of the way. I think this will be kind of easy. Just loosening all the brackets for all the GPUs so I can pick them up. I guess what I can do is just do one at a time. One thing I didn't really do yet is try different PCIe slots. That would probably be the next logical thing. I can replace this one, and we'll just start with the first one and fire it up and see what happens. Just gonna leave the old riser sitting right next to it. Shouldn't be a problem there. So this is new end to end. It's new cable, new adapter, and everything. Okay. Forgot something. Power. Might need power to the riser there, guys. So for the sake of speed, I'm kind of leaving the old stuff in there for now. Oh, Shuby, oh no. What was pleasant to see? Me forgetting to plug up the power? Alright, so wow, it just sees that GPU no problem. And it's got one listed over here. One fired up, no problem. Okay. Power it down. Taking the second one out of the brand new packaging. I did some pretty good wire management on this rig, at least a little bit, and I'm not looking forward to redoing all that. Yeah, I love Vegas, man. They're freaking awesome. I don't have any, unfortunately. Alright, so now let's try the second one. It's going to get a little crowded in here, I think, with all these different extra risers and stuff in here. Forget the power this time. Could probably bring this a little bit closer. I'm gonna maybe try to show you guys how. You want to see me drop this rig? Alright. I don't know if that's going to be any better or not, but we'll see. Yeah, what I was going to show you was how the bar is in there. Underneath, there's a bar. If you're not familiar with the Veta rigs, there's this bar right here can be flipped from side to side, so you can actually put it on the other side behind the GPUs and support them from the back. But in this case, these GPUs were so short that they would actually slide down past the bar. So I had to put the bar underneath of the GPUs, and you can see how the riser actually sits on the GPU itself, or the riser sits on the bar underneath the GPU. If that makes sense. So you can see it right there. All right. A little bit closer, I guess. All right, so I've got the second one plugged in there. I just need to, uh-oh. I don't have, maybe, you know what? I think I had to borrow some of these because I don't have the adapter in some of these bags. Some of these might not be brand new. I mean, they're new, but I've probably scavenged parts from them. Alright, so GPU 2 in. fan stop light on. No, don't. Okay. So the first two don't have fan stop light, so that should be good. Man, whenever I first bought my first Veta frames, I think this was one of them actually, 8 GPU rig frame, and it was, I want to say I paid $189 for one of them. All right, so what do we got? We got 2 GPUs recognized. Yeah, and then a little while back, probably in December or maybe January. It was probably December, actually November, December. Yeah, I did serial Thriller. It was, but that was the price at the time, right? And I just liked the way the frame looked and everything. I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. And yeah, now they're like, I don't even know how much they are now. But back in November, December, I got 3 of the 6 GPU Veta rig frames for, I think it was 19. It was either $19 or $23 each. I think it was 19, and those were like 89 or something like that. You know, at the peak. All right, so we got 2 GPUs showing up. So that's good. Let's power it down. All right, so we'll go with number 3 here. This one has the adapter with it, so that's good. See, I don't really like doing this way, like replacing all this stuff at once, because we're not going to know, we might not be able to determine what the actual problem was, right? So I'm going to go with number 3. I probably should start taking all these extra stuff out because they're just going to get in the way. right, number 3. Yeah, I'm looking at what we were talking about earlier with the posts and touching the. I mean, you could probably say that they could touch, but again, that mount is for, or that connection. Those pins that are sticking through are actually for the USB port itself. So. Alright, so we got 3 connected. I'm going to check my lights up here. Good. So we should have 3 this time. Yeah, I'm not trading much. I mean I've bought some stuff on Trade Ogre and a little bit on Binance, but I'm not good at trading, so I just pick something that I want to hold for a long time and buy that. Alright, so as you can see, we got 3 listed. So that's actually a really good sign, because remember whenever we tried to add more after that second one, they didn't work. So yeah, that's a really good sign. Alright, I'm happy with that. So let's go on to number 4. Once we get past 4, once we get to like number 5 and 6, that's whenever things should get pretty interesting, because remember the maximum we were seeing was 4. So let me start disconnecting this nonsense. Get some of the stuff out of the way. But they're all zip tied, so guess what? They're going to have to stay there for a minute. Wouldn't it be funny to find out that they are actually touching and that's what the actual problem was? That would be hilarious. But see, I do have electrical tape around them. But again, I don't think that matters at this point, but never know. I did it just to be safe. Alright, so we are on number 4. This one here. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect that. Went ahead and connected the power before I put it down, so that way it's a little bit easier. Okay. We got number 4 going in. Okay. What did I do? Now, it's not coming on at all. Uh-oh. that USB cable might have been laying across the motherboard there and shorting something out. Man, this is fun. Getting a lot of fan stop lights up here, so I'm trying to get it to where at least these 4 don't have it. So these 4 don't have that fan stop light. Okay, so it looks like it only saw 2. Yeah, it only sees 2. So I'm going to get it to a point to where none of the fan stop lights are on, hopefully. You get to watch how long it takes to actually make that happen. So maybe what I should do is just go ahead and replace all of them and see if I can get rid of. I mean, the fan stop thing is something I've been dealing with for a long time, so. Yeah, might have to order some risers. It just does not want to do it. Two of them are on. 3 of them. Keep getting the lights on, so I know that those GPUs are not going to be seen by the system. whenever that happens. Normally, within about 5 restarts, it comes up and it's fine. I might have more problems than, oh, see? There you go. As soon as I start talking about it, and now it's going to act right. So now there's 0 fan stop lights, and this is normally what it looks like whenever I feel like it's going to start up with no problems. So we have 4 GPUs connected right now. So hopefully we see 4 GPUs in Simple Mining and on the screen over there. But it only sees 2. I can see that right here is where you would see the different GPUs. So it only sees 2 of them. So I have 4 connected. Only sees 2. All right. let me get my electrical tape. Because these little adapters don't have electrical tape on them. Give me a second. And I was going to try to do another stream, a regular live stream tonight, but it looks like my night is shot here. Messing with this thing. I don't wrap them all the way. I just put a piece on the. Some people put it all the way around. I just put it on the side of the USB adapter itself, or the USB connection. Because if you have it on that side like that, then that's what you're worried about, touching the other side. So. That one doesn't even matter at this point. There's nothing next to it. Alright. See what happens. Yeah, see, so I don't think it's the risers when it comes to that fan stop problem, because we replaced these 4 and they're still doing it. I mean, I guess it could be, you know, one of the other ones, but yeah, I got some background music playing. Yeah, Brandon is having internet connectivity issues, the way I understand it. He doesn't have internet yet at his new place. I guess they have to run fiber or something to his house, from what I gather. It seems to be getting worse with the fan stop stuff. And I hate doing this. It's frustrating. That one? Or that one? I got a desktop power supply. It's a Focus 750, I think. That one? The server power supply? I don't remember where I got that from. I think I just ordered it off of Amazon. So frustrating. Alright, so this is the only one that has fan stop. I'm going to let it go because I want to see if these 4 can show up. Because I only have these 4 connected right now. Should be. Let's see. I think that I would have to get on. Yeah, it was your other right or your other left. Yeah, I'd have to look at Amazon for that, I think. It's just a HP 1200 watt, but that's 1200 watts if you have it on 220, I think. So I think it only goes like 900 or something like that on 110, 115. So it still only sees 2 GPUs. Man, I don't know, guys. This is frustrating. I think the next step would probably be to start changing which PCIe slots it's plugged into. So let's do that. Because I didn't really explain this, but I've been using the same exact slots. So maybe we can just goof around and put them in a bunch of different ones and see if we get like different symptoms. Spread them out a little bit here. I just put them in random spots here just to see what happens. Okay, so those 4 don't have fan stop lights, so I'm just going to let it rock and see what happens. No fireball tonight. Got to work in the morning. Not that that usually stops me, but wow. So it only sees 1 GPU. Wow, that's crazy. That is, that's crazy. All right. I think what I'm going to have to do. All right, so these 2 are fed off of the desktop PSU over here. And I think what I'll do, I'm going to disconnect the power on all of them. Because with weird problems like this, it seems like it almost seems like it's power related. Maybe on the motherboard, maybe on the, this power supply here, I don't know. So I think what I'll do, actually I don't even have to disconnect these because they're all coming off of here. So what I can do is just not power up that PSU and it'll only power these 2. Yeah, and then I should be good. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to disconnect the power to that PSU so that it doesn't come on. And then I'll have these 2 GPUs powered on by the desktop PSU. And disconnect the adapters there, risers. Alright. So let's see what happens now. So only these 2 GPUs are connected. And no fan stop problem right away, so that's excellent. You didn't hear it like fire up, go to 100% fan right away. So that's good. So I'm guessing it's going to very easily see the 2 GPUs. I think it only sees 1. Yep, it only sees 1. Man, now I'm thinking, all right, and this is a lot of back and forth troubleshooting stuff here. I'm going to change the PCIe slots again, just for the heck of it. Get the fan stop on one of them. So I don't think that's, at this point I would say that that's not power related. that particular problem, the fan stop time. So I might actually have a bad GPU in some way. It seems a lot of things seem to focus on this GPU 2 right here as far as problems goes. But it was out of the mix earlier and we weren't able to get much further either, so I don't know. Okay, so it still only sees one. So the next step for me would be to connect a different GPU to the same hardware, the riser and all that stuff, as GPU 2. So that's what I'm going to do next. So I'm going to put GPU 3, I'm going to connect GPU 3 using GPU 2's hardware. Basically just put the GPU over there. I think that'll be the easiest thing. So GPU 2 is out of the mix right now. Man, this is just how long stuff takes, man. Sucks. Sometimes things don't work the way they're supposed to, you know? One of the funniest things my users tell me sometimes at work are, well, it was working yesterday. Like, yeah, well, if things never broke, then we wouldn't have jobs. So. All right, so I got power. So it's basically GPU 3 in GPU 2's spot using all of GPU 2's hardware. And remember, GPU 2 never fired up, ever. Like this whole thing, it never worked. So even from the very beginning, man, that's going to suck if it's actually a GPU problem. So no fan stop problem. Okay, it only sees one GPU. I mean, that's good in a way. It's good that it's probably not the GPU, but we're still trying to figure out, okay, so it's got all new hardware, new riser, new USB cable, new adapter, same symptom. So now the only common thing here is the power supply on this side, the desktop power supply. Because that's what feeds the power to both of these, plus it also feeds the motherboard, which, I mean, could it be a power supply problem feeding the motherboard? Because you've got all those connections for the PCIe slots for the power supply. I'm thinking it could be. Everything at this point is kind of pointing towards the power supply. I don't know, what do y'all think? Power supply? Does it look like that it could be, that could be it? Because I don't have a power supply tester or anything. I mean, I could break out a multimeter and stuff, but I am leaning towards it being the power supply at this point. And I don't have an extra one laying around here. I would have to break some stuff apart. I don't know. Tell me what y'all think. Just make sure it only sees one here. Yep, that's new info there. Only sees one. All right, so kind of a test would be to disconnect the power of this one, plug all the other ones back up, because they're coming off of a different power supply. So they shouldn't really be affected if this power supply is bad, right? The one feeding these two GPUs. So, yeah, I think that's the next step. So I'm going to put this GPU back where it was. I'll throw GPU 2 back in here. But what I'm going to do, we're going to disconnect the power to both of these GPUs and the risers. So that they aren't drawing on the power supply. Now I do have another rig that has the same exact power supply. But it's up and running. I don't really want to mess with that. So what I'm guessing, what we might be able to get here is we might be able to get 6 GPUs up and running, which would be better than none. Alright, so I'm going to disconnect those two. I'm going to have to do some wire tracing here to figure out what's what here. So this one. Sorry, I got the wrong camera on. Y'all can't see me fumbling around with this stuff. So all I did was I swapped that GPU back to slot 3, or put GPU 3 back in its original place. Put GPU 2 here, but I disconnected all the power to both the risers and the GPUs. So neither one of these GPUs have power. So I'm taking them off of the power supply here, so that they're not, a draw on the power supply. I just want to see if maybe we can get these 6 GPUs up and running, because they're running off of this power supply, right? So, that way the only thing that the power supply, the desktop power supply back here will be powering is the motherboard. So, I was having to trace some of these. Make sure I get the right ones in there. I'm just getting completely random on where I'm plugging them up. Probably not a real good practice, but these we didn't get far enough to actually swap these, so these are the original ones. Kind of nice. They're already set up and everything's glued with them. Right. Now I plug the server PSU back in. Okay. Power. Don't have power to these two, but we do have power to the rest of the 6. Should have 2 here. I do. I'm just counting stuff up, make sure I got the right amount of cables not connected. I think we're good. So now what we have is fan stop lights. 2 of them. Man, I hate that. Drives me nuts. Oh, I thought we were going to get it at that time. Got 1. There we go. 3rd try, not too bad. So if we see 6 GPUs over here, then I'm calling it the power supply at that point. And actually my fingers are crossed because it would be nice to figure out what the problem is instead of spending all this time troubleshooting. Nope, it only sees 2. Yeah, the cards have power lights and the risers and all that stuff. Although that's a good point. Oh, no, there's red lights on it too. Okay. Yeah, see, they're all lit. I mean, I'm paying attention to the lights and how things look and what's normal and stuff, and all that's good. Yeah, I wouldn't think it would be the breakout board. I mean, maybe, but the GPU that we kept having problems with, number 2, is not on that breakout board in any way. You know, it's on the desktop PSU alone. So not alone, but with GPU 1. Yeah. This is a quite interesting problem here. So now it's kind of, I mean, honestly though, it still could be the power supply, because the power supply also feeds, you know, obviously it feeds the motherboard, but it has the, I think they call them auxiliary power, that's plugged into, I'm kind of pointing to it right here. I know it's kind of dark, but it's plugged into the motherboard to support all the PCIe slots. And you have one at the top, you have a Molex at the top, a Molex at the bottom, and then a SATA at the bottom as well. And I mean, maybe if the power supply was bad, it's just not getting enough power to the PCIe slots or that bus, maybe. I mean, the only other thing would be to try a different power supply, I guess. But I don't have one handy that I can swap it out. I mean, I've got one, but it's in use, you know. power it up one last time. Give it another chance. Yeah, load up Windows. Could do that too. Yeah, see, sometimes this happens too. It just goes right to BIOS. Now the other system, which is basically identical except for the GPUs, I have basically zero problems with that rig. This rig has always had weird little things going on with it. But I think it's down to, I don't think it's risers at this point. I really don't. I don't think it's USB cables. I think it's either, you know, one or both. Probably, actually, it wouldn't be, I don't think it's going to be the server PSU, because that problem never followed the server PSU. It wasn't on a GPU that was connected to it. I'm really leaning towards it being the main power supply, the desktop power supply. Yeah, so see, it still only sees two GPUs. So let's disconnect two of them and just see if we can get it to see four, right? Four total. Anybody want to buy a rig? So mad with this thing right now. Got some GPUs for sale. I'm noticing a little weird symptom here too, is there's like a delay in powering on and powering off that I don't remember seeing before. Like I hit the power switch and there's several of the GPUs that stay on. Like these two stayed on like a little longer time. So that's a little strange to me. That's not normal. And they're powering up a little bit weird too. Might be onto something here. Yeah, see how, like I hit the switch and then everything was still on. Might have to sleep on it. But that is a weird symptom because it's never done that before. This whole powering down and staying on thing. These two GPUs right here are on, right? They stay powered on for longer than they should have after I powered it down. That is a little bit strange. Just want to move some stuff around over here. Shouldn't make a difference, but the way that the breakout boards are, there's basically one connector or one I don't know what you would call it, but one piece of whatever they use as a conductor that wraps around, the whole thing to provide power to each outlet. So they're all, basically, long story short, they're all connected to the same thing. So I don't think that would be an issue, but just trying to change something up to see if we can get a different symptom, This GPU didn't even come on now. We might have stumbled on something here because now this one's not powering up. The fans aren't anyway. Got power to it and everything, so nothing's like loose over here. This is, I guess, the benefit of having some spare parts on hand is, like you probably should have a spare GPU. And normally I would. I think I want to say I installed my spare in this rig over here a while back for a live stream or something. So it's busy. Okay, now it fired up. I got 2 fan stop lights on. Probably should just let it go and see if at least 4 show up, right? Yeah, it's not Dabbing Squirrel. It's not just one GPU. That second GPU seemed to be the source of a little bit of problems, but it's not. I wouldn't think that it would be a USB cable. Alright, so this time it looks like it didn't find any GPUs. There's 3 fan stop lights on there, so. might be looking at having to take this rig all the way apart. And put it back together. Maybe swapping parts with the known good rig also. These two right here seem to always get hit with the fan stop problem. Now the fan didn't even come on this one again. Alright, so let's do this. Let's disconnect these. Let's go with only these four. Wait, yeah. Only these four right here. Oh, you know what? Haha. That explains it. These right here are the ones that are connected to those two GPUs. My bad. I connected the existing cables, I believe, is what I did. Or I didn't connect. No, that's right. I disconnected these a little while ago. Did I disconnect these? Y'all remember what I did here? Yeah. All right. So let's try this again. All right. I probably got a little bit mixed up on what I was doing. I think that I need to put these back in here and give this another shot. Plug the power back up. So that would explain why they were acting weird. Maybe. So now if the power situation is better, then that would make sense. The fan stop on this one. But we don't have that weird delayed power situation, so that's good. So that just shows you always check your connections. But I think I did do this, because aren't we going back? This is how it was a few minutes ago because we took these out of the mix. And then what I was going to try to do was just have 4, right? I was going to drop it down to 4, but then I realized that those weren't even connected, so. I have 6 right now. I started messing with the breakout board and all that. Yeah, I've done one at a time also, and we immediately ran into where, I mean, I didn't do one and then disconnect that one and then plug up another one and then disconnect that one. I haven't done that yet, so maybe that'll be the next step. Just do literally one at a time. Okay, so these 6 GPUs are plugged in. They all have power. They're all connected to the motherboard via USB. All that stuff. They're connected properly. And it sees one GPU. Just one. That is crazy. All right. So, what I will do I'm getting pretty tired, actually. I might just wait until tomorrow to keep going here. Let's try the 1. I'm going to start at this end though. I'm going to start here and not over here because I already have those two disconnected. So let's disconnect the power on all of these except for 1. So power is disconnected. Maybe. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and just remove. I don't know if I really want to remove the GPUs because I kind of have them in a specific order here. Let's see here. I guess I don't really have to remove them. I can just disconnect the power from the riser. Alright, so no power on any riser except for number 1 or number 8. So this GPU right here is the only one that has power. Double check, disconnect all the. I'm basically going to rebuild this rig at this point. So leaving them over there like that, but it should be okay. Yeah, this rig was working fine for many months. Just started acting up recently. As far as the not all the GPUs working goes. Alright, so I got power, USB, aha. So that's not going to work. I have the wrong one connected. I foresee danger here with all this stuff just hanging here like this, but I'm trying to be as fast as possible here. Trying to double check and making sure nothing's touching. Sure that's the right one. Alright, here we go. Yeah, I actually blew them out while they were in the garage. They're actually pretty clean right now. What's up, Crypto Z? All right, so it looks like it found one. So I'm calling this one good. So let's go ahead and now here's where, see, normally what I would do is I would add one to it. But do you think that maybe we should just go and add another one and use different PCIe slots and, you know, kind of, well, I think I'll leave this one in here since we know it works. And we'll go with number 2. I don't think we've worked this way yet, so. Okay. 2. So I am going to put the GPUs back in here in the same order.